can actually tell your colleagues what you learned today and how you plan to apply that in your own organization. What would you take? What steps would you take in order to turn on DNSSEC validation in your organization? Where do you need to look to? Who do you need to talk to? What would you do, if appropriate, to turn on DNSSEC signing in your organization? What would you do? Who do you need to talk to? What components of the network do you need to touch? What is the plan? So write down a few pieces of the project plan and think about what you would do in order to get this back to your management, or if you're the management yourself, how you would make your colleagues, your staff do the work. So I suppose that we'll give you about 5 to 10 minutes of thinking time, make a couple of notes, and then I will pick out a few of the people who I now see sitting here roughly on the chairs with seats, or I mean the seats with tables. It's been a long day. And then I'll pick one or two of you, and you can go to the mic, and the interpreter will help translating it from Spanish to English for me, and you can tell your colleagues about what you did and what your plans are. Yeah? Go ahead. Thank you. So before I call somebody to the stage, one of the roles that I have in the community is as a trusted community representative. This is a term not invented by me, but there is a bunch of people, also a couple of people from Latin America, Federico Neves, for instance, is one of them, who are involved in the root signing process. The root signing process is something that takes place in the US, on the West Coast, on the East Coast. Actually tomorrow there will be one of the ceremonies by which the zone signing keys are signed. At that moment the key signing key is taken out of a vault in a data center in Culpeper, and the key signing key is taken out to sign a number of zone signing keys that have been generated by VeriSign, which maintains the root zone. That's a very interesting policy, I should say. It's a very interesting exercise. Mainly because it's all a lot of theater, so to speak. It's important theater in the sense that the responsibility of those people is to double check whether somebody else didn't get access to the keys in the time between the key ceremony exercises. So in fact, the role that we have collectively is that of a witness. Now I don't know, you don't have to trust me, and you don't have to take my word for it, but if you configure the root key, you can obtain that from the IANA website. But I've witnessed this key being generated through the root. So at this moment I can say to you, have a look at this key. This is the one that I have seen as being generated for the root zone. It's a, you know, this is one of the things that there is few people who actually seen this with their own eyes. Federico was another person. He's not here this week. There are others as well. But since that is a bit of a unique position, I thought I would vouch for it here. Yeah, DNSSEC in your own organization. Is there anybody who's not yet finished with writing somebody down? Or is there anybody who would feel very uncomfortable stepping forward? Please raise your hand if you feel very uncomfortable, because then I will not call you to the stage. Very good. That means I can choose a random victim. And I'm going to put up the... I'm going to do this at this microphone. See if it's on. Yeah, it is. So I've seen a bunch of people who've been very busy and involved in doing something. Here is a group of people. You were collaborating a little bit. Did I see that correctly, or a bit? A bit. Well, if one of you could step forward and explain at the mic to all your other colleagues, and you can do that in Spanish if you would like, because the translators will help me to understand what you came up with. So, if you would be so kind to explain what kind of organization you're representing here.
Actually, we don't have an organization. We are undergraduates of engineering. So we're not going to implement this when we go back home yet. But of course, we have some ideas to start or to kick off with key generation to sign, for example, a zone that we are managing. And with that, to sign the zone and to have some debug or something. Is that okay?
Yes. What kind of debugging are you thinking about? What kind of debugging tools are you thinking about?
y que
that we are doing okay, that we're checking appropriately the keys, that the chain of trust gets to the root appropriately, and things like that.
Signing authoritative zones, would that be your own zone, or would you have customers underneath that who you would serve with it?
no sería la
No, it would be an authoritative server it would be our own server.
And relatively close, so you don't have customer interaction. Is basically, this is the thing I have. Okay. And suppose you do that. Which country do you live, if I may?
de Uruguay.
In Uruguay. And you would have an Uruguayan domain. I don't know what the top level
Sí,
is.
es el .ui.
Punto .ui. UI.
No, UI.
And UI, does that have secondary level domains like com.ui?
Sí, .com, .ua.
.com, .ui, .edu, .ui. I believe that we have all the secondary domain levels.
So, when you register a domain in your country, do you go to a registrar or do you immediately go to the registry? So do you go to the UI people, or is there a middleman that sells you the service?
El .com, .ui.
For .com UI, you need to go to enter. That would be the registrant of the .com.ui domain. And for the rest of them, I don't know.
Do they offer DNSSEC at the moment?
¿Cómo?
Do they offer DNSSEC? Because you signed your zone, and so your zone is signed, but there is no secure delegation coming from the com.ui.
Sí, sé que .com.
Yeah, I believe that .com.ui is not signed. .ui is not signed. So we wouldn't have a way to get to the root of the domain that I would be offering in NSEC.
Yes, the DS does the secure delegation.
Exactly.
Yes, correct. So in your case, signing your zone, in all honesty, makes little sense because you cannot get your key to a secure path to the
Sí,
root.
en mi caso, sí, no creo que DNSSEC sirva.
In my case, I believe that I would not be delegating any domains in my zone or in between my zones.
One of the things you might consider is actually talk to your com.ui people and say, I've got this marvelous idea, I want to do DNSSEC, could you give me a DS? And maybe it is on the roadmap, and your question might show them that there is at least one interested customer.
Sí, no sé, espero que haya proyectos para hacer eso.
Let's hope that we have enough projects in the near future, but I'm not very involved in that part.
Student, and you will go home and talk to your colleague students. Will you try and set something up and just play with it in a lab or do something with your fellows?
Sí, mismo ya tenemos una especie de lab.
Yeah, indeed, we have a university lab where we have running an authoritative server that has its own and is exclusively for us.
I'd like to learn what you learned when you did that in the lab, and see if you have interested questions about that when you do that with your student colleagues. You guys, once you graduated, go out into the industry and can actually put some technology out there which helps to improve the security of the internet. So, yeah.
Sí, es una idea interesante, pero bueno.
Yeah, thank you.
It would be interesting. Thank you.
Anybody who is considering turning on validation in their infrastructure? Is nobody actually considering turning on validation? Really? Oh, you are. Very good. And you too. That's very good. May I call you to the microphone and ask you something about how you... Muy bien, muy bien. Gracias.
I will take my cheat sheet. That's what he said.
De nada y al traductor.
Thank you to the translator. We come from the regional NAC Cavase of Bahia Blanca, and we have many ideas, and we are very eager to these efforts, or to make these efforts, okay? And we saw this possibility that could be one of the components in order to gather more cooperation or more ventures or more companies in this Cavase Lampac venture. I study economics. I read a lot. I'm very eager to do this. I started with RAC 5. I did not pass the 7 level, but I am very, very eager and put a lot of effort in this. And all of a sudden, in terms of the cooperative where I work, apart from the BIN and apart from the DNS management, I configure it myself, as a matter of fact. Of course, I've been reading and trying to understand what component was about the TTLs and all of the scheme. Obviously, I'm not very fond of default configurations, and that implies some work. And to supplement what Marcelo was saying, at first, the first prime objective was a step-by-step process of how to make progress. The first thing that we need to do is to perform a deep analysis of everything that we're doing. Many things were new, totally new, as a matter of fact. It was a lot of information. Many things come up, many doubts come up, but on an ongoing basis, we try to respond to these doubts, and we come to understand the concept superficially. There's a lot of information to take in a short period of time. And probably to perform this analysis, to evaluate this project with the technical team, because there are many more people involved in the technical part that participate in the NAP. And then after that, to come up with a technical project and its rollout or implementation in the DNS server with security, focusing on these traffic exchange items so all companies can enjoy this, and cooperatives that actually or currently we're connected to. And based on this, to come up with an economic project and to quote digital signatures and to come up with a DNS to resolve domain levels or domains. And we would have some authoritative areas or zones that would be the domains of every single company. That is the idea, the snapshot. And probably to intervene or to take part as a leader in Colombia. For example, they have a project or initiative with a forum. Particularly, I know full well how forums improve things, because it's very important that we become active in the community. Out of so many people, I'm sure that somebody had a problem or an issue. Probably if you share this and when you resolve or you're able to resolve something that is overlooked in the forum, probably we can include it and we can write it down there or jot it down so it becomes somebody's solution in the future.
You say, and I think that if there's one thing you guys can all do is exchange business cards at the end of the day. Make sure that you all have the business cards of each other, because you all do something with DNSSEC, or at least with DNS, and getting some experiences and share those experiences is important. And a forum, as the Colombian forum, could actually help. But there might be other ways to share information as well. I don't know if this is the only initiative I know of. There might be others as well. And this is, you know, the thing with DNS is that it's a public good. It is not you who configure the service who relies on having service, but it's the other parties that want to reach you that rely on the DNS. So in that sense, having a good operated DNS infrastructure out there and a secure infrastructure out there relies on cooperation as much as anything. And knowing people and being able to ask questions to each other and help each other will make that infrastructure work better, in a sense. I'm going to look in this direction. Who made a project plan here? Would you be so kind? And you can take a piece of paper if you want to.
Bueno, yo trabajo en la Universidad Nacional.
Okay, I work at National University of La Plata, and we have a project underway jointly with the Inter-University Networks of Argentina to put NSEC in the .edu.ar domain. We have gathered virtually many times, physically today. Also, we gather here today, and we came up with a trial, with a testbed, a parallel project based on the .edu.ar, and to sub-allocate domains to see the process of work with DSS. And part of the project would be to come up with a recursive DNS resolver. And in that case, we would need to be working with the DLV domain, with the look-aside delegation.
This is something I haven't touched upon in the course. DLV's look-aside validation, it's called. And it's a system that is available both in bind as well as in unbound, where at the moment that a certain, I'm saying it's available in unbound, and I start to doubt myself. I should check that. But anyway, I should know, but I don't. Anyway, what happens is that if you don't have a chain from the root all the way down, then the look-aside validation allows you to look in a different spot whether there's a key. And the look-aside validation is maintained. There is a look-aside validation tree maintained by IAC in which you can register domains that are secure entry points that do not live under a currently existing DNS tree. So this is basically a deployment hack where if in the real DNS tree you don't have an entry point, you can go to a separate tree, the look-aside tree, and take your pick there. I'm not a big fan of it because turning off look-aside validation is a little bit tricky. On the other hand, it's a deployment tool, and in the case that the gentleman was describing, if you want to put infrastructure there under a place where there is very little deployment out there, the look-aside validation might actually pull a couple of people in. An alternative is that if you have close contact with all the recursive name server operators out there, you could supply your edu.ar key to those recursive name server operators and actually deploy it with RFC 5011 key rollover technology so that they can keep it in place by themselves. What is important if you do that is that you actually make very clear how you would start and stop the experiments and how you communicate that, so that you can tell the people who have configured your key that, they should unconfigure it because you now are going to talk to AR, and AR talks to the root, and there's an existing chain of trust. So if you do that kind of deployment hack, I would say, then it is very important to inform everybody around you that is using your key how you're going to communicate, that they stop hard configuring your key in their systems, and they do the work. So keep that in the back of your mind as an alternative for the look-aside validation techniques. As I said, I haven't explained it. In the bind documentation there is some text about it, and in the DNSSEC how-to that you find on the school website, there's also some information about it. I interrupted you, and I'm not quite sure if you were finished. You were finished, okay. We should exchange cards, because I would like you to introduce you. Excuse me, sir? We should later exchange cards, because I would like to introduce you. Well, you have to send me a mail then. I'll give you my card. Because I can introduce you to the Dutch person who deployed DNSSEC in the academic network in the Netherlands. And having some knowledge exchange there might actually be very easy. Maybe you can share experiences. If you would like to, of course. Yeah. Well, one final victim, so to speak. A final victim. Let's see. So somebody is pointing out this gentleman over here. Oh, that gentleman over here. That on the corner. Oh, that's okay. With friends like you don't need enemies, I guess. Huh?
No, nosotros...
We are an institution of the CONICET, the Scientific and Technical Research Institution in Argentina. We are present in the Southern University of Bahia Blanca, and we are under edu.ar. So Andres, that spoke before, he was posing and he was presenting the project. The great advantage through edu.ar is that edu.ar is managed by the university or college network. From the experimental point of view, there's a lot of feasibility or probability, or there's a lot of chance to have or to conduct pilot projects without any inconvenience. So that is the prime objective that we have set. From the point of view of the institution, we want to check the current hardware and to verify the software that supports the DNS, and to consider the issues of firewalls, their impact on the bandwidth, to be familiar with the tools and with the checking procedures in testing or in the trial phase, and to see that our edu.ar has a DNS, and for edu.ar is that the .ar has not implemented its platform yet. So we have pilot testing and then the chain of trust. Obviously, your course was very interesting. There's a lot of information that once we get home, we can leverage that and we can analyze in detail. Thank you, and that has been our experience. It is important, the Latin American cases that emerged as example, and the interaction is going to be good, especially with the Netherlands university that you have mentioned to Andres. That is an important case study for us. Thank you.
The floor is actually open for anybody who would like to, have some discussion about these issues or has questions to other participants.
Buenas tardes, yo me quiero presentar. Mi nombre es Gonzalo Romero.
My name is Gonzalo Romero. I'm the security chief of .com registry, the CEO domain associated to Colombia. I would like to share the experience on the implementation of DNSSEC. We enjoy a great advantage since we have a technological or an IT alliance that is called Newstar. It's a very large company in the United States that manages top-level domains. There are three companies that are manage these domains. They are assigned affiliates, and this is our technological partner, and we have developed an initiative with them that is an IT and support strategy. Newstar is a large company, it's a very strong company that has developed DNSSEC issues. As such, we're not an IT company. However, we are a company that provides domain management services. So the topic of our implementation was not on our side. We understand that this is an issue that is very, very complex in nature. It's not an easy task to develop. It involves many phases and steps. But what I would like to share with you is that it's not only the technical point of view. This is a project that has many axes or pillars and needs to be looked at from many points of view. And we don't need to look at from the top-down approach, from the down-to-top approach based on the concept that you are modeling a scheme of a root domain. And from then onwards, how, or from downwards, upwards, how you're developing this task. It's a very good initiative if you have, for example, the 3 level, how we're going to build on these levels without overlooking that the one that is on top is the one that manages the infrastructure. In the case of the CO, that is a Colombian domain, to sign the zones is very complex. It's finished and it has been done by somebody. The idea is to create awareness right now. How do we become people aware of a joint effort as the DNSSEC? This is what we need to sell. That's why we need to become more interactive and to cooperate, or to be more cooperative and to sell the benefits of the DNSSEC. And to say that the DNSSEC is not the panacea, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it helps. It helps to mitigate in issues such as attacks that we're undergoing in Latin America with Anonymous, with DULSEC. These are opportunities that we can seize to show the government the importance or the significance of the DNS servers to the interior of the organization. So this is what we need to create, is create awareness to contribute to this DNSSEC effort, because if not, we're not going to provide with this, and we're not going to be able to provide this service. So the organization of seminars, congresses, and conferences such as this are very important experiences. Another important role or player in the DNSSEC lies in the ISPs, the Internet Service Providers. It's like SENEC, for example. The DNSSEC is an end-to-end component solution. So if in the middle we're not able to provide those services with the ISP, the panacea is broken. So there's a large effort to be made, because in all the Latin American domains, there's a lot of hosting, there's a lot of allocation. There are many ISPs that are becoming intermediaries or the middlemen in the registrants, because the people that register domains are not very technical and they cannot understand this. So this needs to be hand in hand with the ISPs that are the ones that will generate the platform, the IT platform necessary to come up with the solutions. Like Telefonica, these ISPs, I'm sure that we need to find these sort of alliances that would be more reasonable in order to create awareness, in order to empower this DNSSEC solution. And this is what we're doing in Colombia, promoting these sort of schemes. Another key issue is at the governmental level. We need to be aware of the bids in the CRPPs, especially when we have IT contracts in web applications on e-government portals. This is not considered, so we need to promote, or we need to show or to demonstrate that these sort of tools need to be sine qua non, that is an essential component of these requests for proposals, that they need to demand ISPs or internet service providers that within its platforms they need to conceptualize this model to provide security to all the infrastructure that is mounted on top of the portals or the government portals. National university networks are another key component. Everything that has to do with Internet 2, everything that is Clara, Renata. I don't know how your college universities are called in your countries, but these are networks that are perfect mechanism that promote dialogue in order to work with these issues. And they go hand in hand with IPv6, with RPKI. They are conducted with different development levels. That is the strategy that we are following, at least in DNSSEC. Later, I would like to comment on the strategies, the security strategies that we have in place, but at least this is what I wanted to share with you in connection with DNSSEC.
A enumerate overview of how to get some community thinking around DNSSEC. And I should say that trying to lead by example, so to speak, is something that, for instance, was tried in the United States, where I believe it's called FIPS, the guidelines for provisioning, and so federal provisioning says that if you buy a service, internet service, a DNS service, it needs to be DNSSEC compliant. So that gave a big push to all kinds of governmental organizations to deploy DNSSEC, because basically it was mandated from the top. On the other hand, when that happens, you see that it becomes a checkbox, and that is dangerous too. A checkbox on a security mechanism that is not well understood will cause harm and failure, because people turn something on which they do not quite understand what it means to turn on. It was on the, it was on the requirement sheet, so we shipped it. So if you deploy it, I think it's important that governments lead by example. That they say internet is a public good. We will lead by example by deploying IPv6, by making sure we follow best practices with regards to routing, and we deploy DNSSEC. I mean, all these kinds of things that governments actually should do, leading by example. But still, you have to know what you do, and by just mandating things that might not work either, or that well. So there's somewhere there's a middle ground, and people have tried several things. What is important is actually that it is on the radar of your TLD. If DNSSEC is not on the radar of your TLD, then signing is probably not the best thing to do. What was interesting is the Swedish model of development of DNSSEC deployment. In Sweden, there are about 2 or 3 main ISPs, something around that. And what they did is the Swedish top-level domain went to those big ISPs and said, we will sign and you will validate. And then they went to the banks and they said, if you sign, we know that your data will be validated. This all happened before Dan Kaminsky published his attack. So the only country where they had DNSSEC validation of bank information was in Sweden. And when the the Kaminsky attack was made public, they said, we don't care, we've got DNSSEC on, you can validate our data. And that was a place where highly commercial services like banks, which are pretty vulnerable, if you want to attack DNS, you go where the money is as an attacker. No? It's a commercial thing, either political or commercial. But those are the two main motivations to do attacks on networks. So if you get the banks in the picture, and you get the local ISPs in the picture, and you sign your top-level domain, you have created security with a value add. And you've got a very good story to promote DNSSEC elsewhere. I think that the Swedes did that exemplary well. Very good. So if you're a bank, go to your local ISPs. Say, turn on DNSSEC validation. And if you're a bank, also go to your TLD and say, we want to see you deploy DNSSEC. Because if you don't, it might cost us money. Because it will. At some point it will. Tomorrow, I believe it is tomorrow, I will give a presentation about how DNSSEC and PKIs relate to each other. So we had a recent event in the Netherlands where a certificate authority was hacked, DigiNota. And I'm going to explain a little bit about the background of DigiNota, what happened, what you could see in the wild, and how DNSSEC and a currently deployed technology called DANE will help prevent that kind of failure later. And DANE is one example where DNSSEC is a foundation for innovative security on the internet. And this is a necessity to actually deploy it to raise the level of security on the internet by an incredible step. If we manage to deploy DNSSEC on a worldwide scale, we'll get encryption for free. And that's a very good thing for the internet in general. Anyway, that is the heads up for tomorrow. I'm now going to ask a few people to, and I hope you also did that, you wrote down your expectations for, let's skip that. You wrote down your expectations this morning about your expectations of the day and what you wanted to learn. Is there anybody who is a little bit sad about the mismatch between the expectations and what you got? Because if that is the case, I would like to know. I won't be angry. If you wrote down something this morning, I expect from this course this and this and this, and you're now at the point where you say, I didn't get any of it, then I would like to know. Then please approach me after the session and tell me what your expectations were and where the mismatches were. Because I would like to understand, what you would like to learn. If there's anything else where you have comments or further questions, I will be around for the rest of the week. Please capture me in the hallway. I can hopefully answer your questions. If you want to know more about NSD, which is a high-performance authoritative name server developed by NLNet Labs, which is run on several TLDs and several root servers and so on and so forth, you can talk to me. If you want to know more about unbound validating recursive name server, high performance, etc., beautiful product, you can also talk to me. That was the commercial wrap. If there's no further questions, then thank you all for attending, and I hope you take something home, and I hope that we'll make the internet better collectively. Thank you.
Now, I'm sorry. So I was saying that we are really happy to have you here. Thank you very much. I hope that you guys have really enjoyed and learned a lot and take advantage of this tutorial. And I want to remind you that we have the official opening for the event tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So we hope that we can see you here for the rest of the event. And thank you very much.